Good and evil, yin and yang, cringe and epic. These are the nebulous forces that govern our everyday life, whether we notice them or not. But in terms of things that are, in fact, epic, the first thing that will come to mind is epics, opening parenthesis, noun, closing parenthesis. Now, a literary epic is a type of poem which is very long, takes place in a mythical time period, and usually involves the actions of a single person over a long period of time. But what I want to know is what makes this epic. Where are the epic wins? Where is the swag and the YOLO? I don't think that epic poems should be called epics, unless they do in fact contain epic ponage like a boss. So that's what I'm here to find out. Which epics are epic? The first epic on our list is the Epic of Gilgamesh, one of the first recorded stories in history.
Now, the story itself isn't too long. I actually own a physical copy of the book, and the introduction and glossary take up more space than the actual story does.
Now, Gilgamesh as a person was considered to be 2/3 god and 1/3 human. And right off the bat, I'm really not sure what that family tree would look like. I don't know how he has 3 parents. But anyway, the point is, the story is already very diverse. It's very, very rare to see representation in media for characters who are 2/3 god. The only other character I can think of in common media who is 2/3 god would be Wario from the WarioWare franchise. However, there is a notable difference. While Gilgamesh is 2/3 god and 1/3 human, Wario is 2/3 god and 1/3 also god. Anyway, moving on, the main conflict that we start out with in the Epic of Gilgamesh is that Gilgamesh himself is getting too many hoes, and he's not leaving any hoes for anyone else. So everyone else is really upset that there's no hoes left, so they ask the gods to please fucking kill Gilgamesh so that all his money, bitches, and hoes can go to someone else. Of course, the gods can't just do anything simple for once, so they create a dude to vanquish Gilgamesh in battle for them. So this dude, whose name is Enkidu, first has sex with a prostitute and then goes to fight Gilgamesh. However, Gilgamesh wins, and then they kiss and make up and become best friends for life. So after that, Gilgamesh and Enkidu go on a journey to a magical forest to kill Humbaba the Terrible, but then Enkidu dies, so Gilgamesh takes some time off to do a little soul searching and work through his emotions a little bit better. Okay, this is epic. Overall, the Epic of Gilgamesh contains colossal quantities of swag, epic wins, YOLO, and other things to that effect. My only criticism is that it's too cliché, it's very derivative, and it seems that they probably plagiarized from Marvel's The Eternals. There was a character in that named Gilgamesh, and now I understand that movie came out a little bit after this did, but, I mean, he was in the comics, so no excuse. So I think the Epic of Gilgamesh is getting a 9.05 out of 10, right above the Halloween 2017 Google Doodle, but right below water. So next up is the Legend of Keret. So Keret is a king, and his life isn't going very great. His wife left him, and then he had 6 more wives, and they all also left him. So what he did was he started a war against a neighboring kingdom. So right off the bat, this is already immensely based. I mean, we've all started an international conflict or two in the Middle East on a bad day, but King Keret did it for pussy. Anyway, after this part, the story is missing a lot of sections, but what it looks like is that Keret angers the gods, and all his children die, and then he dies. So that's pretty cool. Altogether, the story is pretty swag, pretty based, pretty epic win, but a lot of epic fails too. I'm gonna be giving it a 6 4/4, putting it next to boiled potatoes and the letter Q. Now after this, we got the Iliad as well as the Odyssey, 2 parts of one large story. Now I will give a disclaimer here, I have not read both of these stories all the way through. However, I have fully completed the Nintendo Switch adaptation starring Mario, so I do think I am pretty well versed on the general gist of what happens in the story. So the Odyssey is mainly about the life of a man named Odysseus, but it starts out in the Iliad, which chronicles the Trojan War, who he's a fighter in. Now, the vast majority of the Iliad is just about fighting, but after the war is over, it transitions directly into the events of the Odyssey, where Bowser steals the princess and Mario has to rescue her. He travels to a variety of colorful, wacky worlds. He's a tree, and he also kills dozens of people. Epic win. This was also the first appearance of the character known as Smithers, who is in fact black at this point in time. Anyway, the Odyssey I think is about a 5.334, right in between the letters U and J, but the Iliad is more of a 4.28, right above Shelter. Now, of the epic poems that we've discussed so far, they've been rather long. I've also read most of them. However, as we begin talking about the Mahabharata, I'm not fucking reading that shit. Now, there's not really a good IMDb synopsis for this. It doesn't really make much sense. I tried to find a SparkNotes summary for it. Didn't really have much luck. So there's really just not much I can do. I will give it credit. It is pretty based that it is 1.8 million words, 5.003, right between the letter I and Holodomor. So moving on, Beowulf is gotta be one of the best things that
Anonymous
has ever written, at least top 10. So this story stars Beowulf, who starts out the story making a very poor decision and moving to Denmark. He's immediately attacked by one of the locals named Grendel, so he tracks Grendel's IP address and then goes to his house and fucking kills him. Then he kills Grendel's mother just to really rub it in. 50 years later, he's a king now, and he goes and kills a dragon. Epic win, but he dies anyway. Epic fail. I like this story because it contains a man named Hrothgar. It also might be transmitted orally, so be careful and make sure to get tested. So in my opinion, this is very epic. There is nothing more YOLO than dying. Altogether, I'm giving it an 8.912, which puts it above ultra-modern block nativity, but below non-Wendy's french fries. There's one more epic I want to talk about, mainly just because of how genuinely wild it gets. It's called It's called Ibonia. It starts out with this woman named Beautiful Rich who can't have children going to a diviner named Great Echo and asking for a child so that their bloodline can carry on. And the diviner says to her, yes, you can have a child, but he is going to be a calamity for everyone, and he's going to kill you and your family. So, of course, she responds, okay. So she travels to a rock with a locust sitting on top of it, roasts it, and then the locust goes down through her head into her womb and becomes a child. Then, while the fetus is still in her womb, it speaks to her and chooses someone to marry while he is still a fetus. Then, said Beautiful Rich, my baby, he is Big Boy. Now, after he has been in the womb for 10 years, he leads his mother around trying to choose where he wants to be born, and every place he decides he doesn't want to be born in, he completely decimates. Like, he just destroys these places entirely for no reason. Then his mother swallows a banana with a razor inside of it purposefully, and the fetus uses the razor she swallows to C-section himself. As a child, Ebonia plays a game with all the other children in the village where they throw feces at each other, and he beats them so badly that their families stop feeding them. Eventually, Ebonia finds out that his wife, who he arranged his own marriage with as a fetus, is currently married to someone else, and so he goes to get her back. So in order to do this, he finds an old man, gets some information out of him, studies the way he acts, and then confiscates his bones, organs, and flesh, and then wears his skin. Dressed in this man's skin, he plays a board game with Stone Man, who's the person already married to the girl that Ebonia wants to marry, and Stone Man loses, so they have a Dragon Ball Z battle, and Ebonia wins and gets the girl, and everyone lives happily ever after. Except for, you know, all the people that Ebonia just decided to kill for no reason. And then after this, Ebonia dies. Just like when he decides he feels like dying. In my opinion, the sheer quantity of basedness demonstrated by Ebonia in this story is so staggeringly high that I'm going to be ranking it higher than all the other epics I've looked at so far. It's sitting at a strong 9.35, right above the letter P, where it belongs, I think. So I do think that the epic poems that I've looked at so far do contain a vast amount of ponage, of epic wins, as well as epic fails, which are epic in their own right, and they are extremely fergalicious. However, I don't believe that this is enough to give them the title epic as a noun. They are not without cringe, and I think if anything it deserves to be called just the word epic on its own, it's probably Monster Energy. Get a kickstart to your day! Anyway, thanks for joining me for silent reading time. I really appreciate how you didn't interrupt me or speak while I was talking the entire time. Is there anything you'd like to share with the class? Just kidding, I don't give a fuck.